I still remember the exact moment my husband smiled and said, "You ask too many questions." At first, I laughed because I thought he was teasing me. We'd been married for 7 years, owned a small home outside Columbus, Ohio, and had built what looked like a comfortable life. I worked as a marketing coordinator, and he managed operations for a construction company. We weren't wealthy, but we were stable, or at least that's what I believed. Whenever I asked about our savings, investments, or mortgage, he'd wave his hand and say, "Don't worry, I've got it." For years, I accepted that answer. I told myself every marriage divides responsibilities. He handled the finances. I handled most of the household planning. It seemed fair. But slowly, little things stopped making sense. The mailbox became off limits. If I picked up an envelope addressed to him, he'd casually take it from my hands before I could read the return address. "I'll take care of that." If I asked how much we still owed on the mortgage, he'd answer without giving a number. "We're doing fine." If I asked about our retirement account, he'd say, "It's complicated." The conversations always ended the same way. "You don't need to stress yourself." For a long time, I mistook exclusion for protection. Then, one Friday afternoon, I received an email from our bank. It wasn't meant to be suspicious. The subject line simply read, "Your online account settings have been updated." Confused, I opened it. According to the email, my online access had been removed from one of our joint accounts. I assumed it was a mistake. That evening, I asked him while we cleaned the kitchen, "Did the bank change something?" He barely looked up. "Oh yeah, I simplified a few things." "What does that mean?" "It just makes managing everything easier." "For who?" "For us." The answer didn't feel like an answer. That weekend, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Not because of the account, because of how uncomfortable he became whenever I asked a simple question. I realized something that made my stomach tighten. I knew exactly where we bought groceries. I knew our neighbors' birthdays. I knew what color we planned to paint the guest room. But I didn't know how much money my own household had. On Monday during lunch, I called the bank. The representative politely explained that because my name was still on certain accounts, I could schedule an appointment to review everything. I almost canceled. Part of me worried I'd seem dramatic. Another part quietly whispered, "If you're afraid to know the truth, that's exactly why you need it." So I went. The banker pulled up our accounts. At first, everything looked ordinary. Checking, savings, mortgage. Then she paused. "Would you also like information about the additional line of credit?" I blinked. "The what?" She looked confused. "The home equity line." My heart skipped. "I don't know anything about that." She hesitated before turning the screen toward me. There it was, a large balance, opened almost 2 years earlier, secured against our home. I stared at the numbers, unable to speak. I hadn't signed anything. At least I didn't remember signing anything. The banker explained that all documents had been processed electronically. My hands started shaking. I wasn't angry yet. I was scared. What else didn't I know? Over the next few days, I quietly gathered copies of every document I was legally allowed to access. Statements, loan summaries, payment histories. Nothing illegal, nothing secret. Just information that belonged to me as much as it belonged to him. The more I learned, the calmer I became. Knowledge has a strange effect. It replaces panic with clarity. I wasn't looking for evidence against my husband. I was looking for the truth. One evening, he noticed a folder on the dining room table. "What's that?" "Financial paperwork." He froze for half a second, then smiled. "Why are you reading all that?" "I want to understand our finances." He laughed softly. "You'll just confuse yourself." Normally, that sentence would have ended the conversation. This time, I simply smiled. "I'll figure it out." His expression changed. Not angry, uneasy, For the first time since we'd been married, I wasn't accepting "trust me" as a complete answer. That night, he barely slept. Neither did I. Because hidden inside one of those statements was a payment made every month to an account I had never seen before, and I had no idea where that money was going. The next morning, I made coffee like I always did. Nothing about the routine had changed, but everything inside me had. For years, I believed being a supportive wife meant asking fewer questions. Now I realize that trust doesn't grow in silence, it grows in honesty. I wasn't looking for a fight. I was looking for clarity. Before jumping to conclusions, I called the bank again and scheduled another appointment. This time, I brought every statement I had collected and asked the representative to explain each unfamiliar transaction. She patiently walked me through them. The monthly payment wasn't going to another woman, a secret apartment, or anything dramatic like my imagination had suggested. It was going toward an investment account that had been opened only in my husband's name. I felt two emotions at once: relief and disappointment. He hadn't been hiding an affair. He had been hiding our financial future. That hurt in a different way. When I got home that evening, I found him sitting on the back porch. I joined him without saying a word. After a long silence, I placed the folder on the table between us. I know about the home equity line. His shoulders immediately stiffened. I know about the investment account. He looked down, and I know I was removed from our online banking. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, he let out a slow breath. "I didn't want you to worry." I nodded. "I've heard that answer before. It's true." "Then tell me the whole truth." He rubbed his hands together, searching for the right words. When the construction company started slowing down a couple of years ago, I panicked. I thought I could grow our savings by investing. I believed if I told you, you'd think I had failed. So instead, you made financial decisions without me. I thought I was protecting you. I looked at him calmly. No. I shook my head. You were protecting yourself from an uncomfortable conversation. That sentence hung between us. He didn't argue, because he knew it was true. For years, he had mistaken control for responsibility. He believed carrying every burden alone made him a good husband, but carrying secrets had only created distance. I wasn't asking questions because I doubted you, I said quietly. I was asking because I'm your partner. He covered his face with his hands. I know. I never wanted to manage every dollar. I just wanted to understand the life we were building together. He nodded slowly. I see that now. The conversation lasted nearly 3 hours. Not because we argued. Because, for the first time in years, we answered each other's questions honestly. He showed me every account, every loan, every investment, every mistake. Some decisions had worked out, others hadn't. But none of that mattered as much as the fact that the walls between us were finally coming down. The following week, we met with a financial advisor together, not because our finances were in crisis, because our communication had been. The advisor suggested something simple: a monthly money meeting. One evening each month, we'd review every account, every bill, every savings goal, and every financial decision together. No surprises, no hidden passwords, no don't worry about it, just transparency. It sounded almost too simple, but it changed everything. Over the following months, something unexpected happened. I became more confident discussing investments, budgeting, and long-term planning. Not because I wanted control, because knowledge gave me peace. And my husband changed too. Whenever a financial decision came up, he'd ask, "What do you think?" Those 4 words meant more than he probably realized. He wasn't asking for permission. He was inviting partnership. One Saturday morning, almost a year later, we were organizing old paperwork in the living room. He smiled as he handed me a folder. "You keep these." I laughed. "Why me?" "Because they're ours." Just one word. Ours. It was the word I had been waiting to hear all along. Looking back, I realized the biggest lesson wasn't about money. It was about self-respect. Marriage doesn't require one person to know everything while the other simply trusts. Real trust welcomes questions. Real love doesn't fear transparency, and healthy boundaries aren't walls built to keep each other out. They're agreements that protect both people equally. The day I stopped accepting "you don't need to know" wasn't the day I stopped trusting my husband. It was the day I started respecting myself. Ironically, that was also the day our marriage finally became a true partnership. If this story touched you, please comment and subscribe. I have one question for you. Do you believe complete financial transparency is essential in a marriage? Let me know your answer below.